Hey there, my name is Jim Gavigan, and today I'm going to do a review of many of the Pro and Avalon series Xcaliber golf shafts. I've been using these for a couple of years now, and I'm really impressed with what Robin and his team have developed. And I just wanted to share with you guys some of my experiences with them. So, a little bit about me first is just some pertinence because I think it's important to understand since we're all individuals, we're all looking for different things. I want to tell you some of the things, where my skill level is, what age am I, what are the things that I tend to struggle with. So that way you can kind of put this together and maybe do a little bit of extrapolation into your own game, into your own mindset if you're considering these shafts, or even if you're not considering these shafts. I think you probably ought to. I've been super impressed. So first of all, I've got my USGA card up here. As you can see, I'm just under a one handicap. It's actually been trending up a little bit. I actually had an injury late last year that cost me some time, and I'm finally starting to play a little bit better these days. I've had a few bad rounds, sprinkled in there where I'm, shooting 80 plus, but, I'm starting to shoot some of the lower numbers again. I just haven't shot anything under par yet this year, which it's kind of weird because I had several rounds under par last year that I just haven't been able to crack this year. So I give you a little bit about me. I'm 50 years old. I'm 5'8", about 165 to 170 pounds. I have been, trying to work out. I did do a little bit of speed training. I think I'm probably tapped out, speed-wise, but I am trying to work out so that I don't hurt myself again. I actually had some herniated discs in my neck, which was extremely painful and don't recommend to anybody. So I've been trying to just really be able to practice a lot, and have a couple hour range sessions if I want and not get hurt. So that's the biggest reason why I've been working out. I don't think it's really helped my speed. I don't think it's really done necessarily a lot for me. So let me bring up my swing here. And the reason I do this is just so you guys can kind of see, for yourself. I've got some Trackman data. But this was some stuff that I sent to Brian at Xcaliber, and I said, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I'm playing now. Here's what I'm looking for. And this particular day, I'm playing the original sim driver, 9 degrees, turned down to 7.5. That way I can kind of open the face up a little bit. In this particular case, I was trying to make sure that I was fading the ball, so I really didn't want to see the ball go left. And this was a 44.5-inch stiff flex Avalon 6, which I'm going to review here, tipped a ½ inch. I have since changed, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But that's what I was hitting here. So as you can see, I have a fairly smooth tempo, nothing really outlandish. I've been working a lot on balance and body rotation. And as you'll see in some of my shot tracers for my shaft reviews today, I was kind of struggling a little bit with stalling my hips out, which is a fault of mine that I've been working on with my Pro. This particular day I was actually hitting it pretty solid. Was actually getting my hips turned through pretty well, so that's the reason why I wanted to bring that up. And also my shot tracers, I really didn't focus on me. I was trying to focus more on the ball flight. And so, really, let's see, let me get some Trackman data up there. So again, I don't have any kind of weird idiosyncrasies. My swing's fairly smooth. There's just not a lot of craziness going on. So let me bring up some Trackman numbers. So this was current driver paired up with the current 3-wood when I was doing some testing with some various shafts. So let's start with the driver. So I'll pull this off. So I was averaging right around 110, 111 miles an hour. Averaging almost 280 carry, 279 carry. That's pretty good down here in Florida because we don't get a lot of excess carry. Hitting it pretty well, keeping the spin rate, down, a fair amount. That 2400 is a pretty good spin rate for me. I feel like I can control that more. I can actually do some things to that sim to make it spin a lot less, but I really struggle to control it. It kind of really comes out like a knuckleball. And one of the things I really struggle with, this is why I bring this up, one of the things I struggle with a little bit is that lack of body rotation, lower body rotation. My hips tend to stall. I tend to flip my hands, get a little bit of early extension going. that's when I start hitting it a little funny. I start, spraying it and just not hitting it as solid. And so that's one thing I kind of battle. I also battle hitting the ball a little too high and spinning it a little bit too much. I didn't bring up a report I had of a TaylorMade M2 that I was hitting, but I was spinning that one more in the 28-2900 range. So, and I've spun driver consistently well over 3,000 with something I was playing last year around this time. So, it's been a pretty long search to find the right spin rate, right shaft flex, all those kind of things. I feel like I'm pretty dialed in right now. This is a really good setup for me. Balances distance with control. So this one's pretty good. So I was testing out a Ping G425 LST. On this day, put a bunch of different shafts in it. Didn't notice a lot of difference in it. This was not the Avalon that is currently in it today. But this is about what I should expect out of a 3-wood, in that 240 to 250 range, from a carry perspective. I hit a couple, not as good, caught them off the bottom of the face, spun them up a little bit. But as you can see, I average like 3,700, which is probably a little bit high. I'd probably like to be down around 33 to 3,500 there. But again, that's kind of one of those things that I tend to struggle with. And on this particular day, I was hitting a cut. I have since started to decide that, I really want to start trying to hit a draw. I feel like I hit a lot more shots, more solid. I don't get real wipey with it, and I don't get that early extension as much. So anyway, that's something I'm kind of working on, trying to get the spin down, ball flight down a little bit, and just hit it more solid. We'll see how it goes. But those are some things that I've tended to struggle with over the years and kind of where I'm at so that you guys can take that for what it's worth. Just another little bit of background on me. I've been building my own clubs for, I guess, 18 years now. My oldest son's 18. I started when he was probably about 6 months old. And really how that started was I was on the range one night. There was a guy at the local course where I used to live in Memphis that, he was coming by one day. He did all my club repair stuff. And I was hitting an Adams SC 9-degree driver with the standard stock stiff shaft. That was way too soft for me. That Adams SC had a design to get the ball in the air, which were things that I did not need. And I could tell that night because I was hitting the ball into the wind and felt like I was hitting it like 220, 230 yards, and they look like a pitching wedge. They would just spin up and then come straight down. And he comes walking by picking up buckets and on the range, and I said, "Hey Bob, I think I ought to try an extra stiff shaft. Watch me hit a couple and tell me what you think." And he kind of chuckles and tries to give me a lesson like I wasn't delivering, the club right. Now, this is a guy who was probably an 18 to 20 handicap, and I was probably playing off 2 or 3 at that point in time. I'd played with him a couple times. I'd shot, even to a couple over on 9, and he had shot bogey golf at best, right? So I'm like, buddy, you're not going to give me a lesson. You don't know enough. And so I just decided he's never going to get another dime of my money. And I sold a boat that I had at the time because I wasn't using it. And I had a golf course 5 minutes from the house. This is something I wanted to do for a little while. And being an engineer, I like to tinker with stuff. So I got into club making. So over the years, I've gotten to test a lot of shafts, a lot of different things. So I've kind of settled on kind of what works for me. And so that's kind of another basis for this review is I've always tended toward things that were too stiff for other people. They felt like they were boardy. Like back in the day, I loved the Grapholoid Blue shaft, which a lot of people thought was way too stiff. I loved it. Now, if I hit, say, something like a Hazardous Smoke Black or something along those lines, they feel incredibly boardy to me. I've got a Dynamic Gold X100 just straight in that I put in a 4-iron. Didn't like the feel because it felt too boardy to me. So I think I've smoothed out over the years, and I don't think I'm swinging as fast as I did when I was in my early to mid 30s when I first started this journey. So, but I have tended still to like a lot of things that other people find that they can't really get in the air and don't feel really that confident with. So, I still kind of tend that way, but just not as much as I used to. So just so you know, that kind of will slant my review just slightly. So if you're on the opposite end of that spectrum, maybe these aren't shafts for you, but certainly I think if you're a stronger swinger, lower handicap, even if you're not a lower handicap, but just have, a lot of swing speed and or a pretty violent transition, I think all these shafts that I'm about to review are things you could consider. So anyway, that's just a couple things about me, kind of put a little bit of perspective around what I'm about to tell you. Hey there, so I'm going to place this video at the beginning of a couple of my shaft videos, because if you look in my Avalon 6 review, I talk about how you can't knock 1,000-1,500 RPM off of a club or add that much with a shaft. And I make a couple of statements in a couple of videos that might lead you to think that. And that's really not the case. There's been some cases in my recent career where I was on the ragged edge club design wise. As a matter of fact, on the fairway one that I'm going to talk about, I talk about it spinning up too much. The reality was I was already on the ragged edge of that club spinning too much. And as a matter of fact, I was having to manipulate that club to not have it spin too much. I feel like I'm right there with my driving iron right now as well. And I feel like if I put a shaft in that even gives me 300-400 RPM extra spin and a little bit more launch, a degree, half a degree, it can make a lot of difference in peak height and in carry distance for me, because I'm on the ragged edge. And so I just want to make sure that I'm very clear, because I think head design has much more effect on ball flight than shaft design does. And I also think your delivery has a lot to do with it too. And knowing my faults, I tend to deliver a little too much lofted impact and end up, getting a little extra spin. So a lot of times, when I'm talking about, that one spun up a little bit, or, I feel like I'm spinning this a little bit much, the shaft may be like that whipped cream and cherry on top to that. And I can get it playable, maybe with a different design. So, again, this is all fine tuning, and everybody's results are very different. I just wanted to give you guys my personal results and what I observed and what I felt like I was observing, because I don't always have Trackman data to back it up. I can just tell you, here's what I was seeing, here's what I'm used to seeing, here's what I would like to see. So anyway, I hope you enjoy these videos, and I just wanted to clarify that before you get into them. All right, so finally up on the list are the T6 series golf shafts. So let me pull that up on the website here. So if we go to the Pro Series, so specifically I'm going to talk about the T6 Star and its predecessor, the T6 Plus. I don't think they've changed very much. This Pro Fairway, and then also they've got a Pro Hybrid as well, which actually I don't remember hitting very much. I do have one, don't remember hitting it. So anyway, but I will talk a little bit about it, some things. So let's talk a little bit about the T6 first. Actually, let me, I'll show you mine here in a minute. So comparing this one to the 6S, okay, which is the exclusive kind of version of this, stronger swingers golf club. What I've found, the T6 Star and the 6S play very similar. The performance is almost identical. This feels slightly harsher. This feels more like, like a Hazardous Smoke Black or something like that. Not quite that harsh, but more in that range. It's definitely going to be, if you have a more violent transition and you really load the shaft, you may like this a little bit better than the Avalon. Don't know. I mean, I would certainly try them both, but I think the performance is relatively similar. I just think the 6S just feels so much better, and it looks a lot better, to be honest. I think it's just killer looking. So very, very similar. Let's see, let me find the video. Let's see. So here's the ones that I'm playing. So kind of where I'm playing these right now is I've played the T6 Star in a driver. I played it at the stiff shaft, 45 inches, tipped an inch. Compared that to a 44.5 inch, tipped a half inch Avalon 6S. Performance was almost identical. The feel was a little bit smoother on the Avalon. I could definitely tell, a slight difference. And it's funny, I've asked Robin, I said, what'd you do different? Oh, I just tweaked some things. That's the response he gives everybody. So don't ask him. He's not going to tell you. He tweaks some things. But it's a very, very similar design. But I think the feel is just a little bit smoother. I've got the old T6 Plus, which was Robin's previous company, Arthur Extreme Engineering. I think it's the same golf shaft. I doubt he changed the design very much. Maybe he tweaked a couple of things. But I'm playing that actually in a Snake Eyes 18-degree hybrid. And that's tour stiff, and it's actually not tipped at all. So it's basically soft stepped a little bit. Really penetrating, nice ball flight. Really, really like it. It kind of goes in and out of my bags depending on, what I'm doing. I'll alternate that in a driving iron, like kind of a 2-iron in that range. And, I've had no issues with it. Really good ball flight. What I was playing it before was a Grafaloy Pro Launch Red. And this actually launches lower, and I had trimmed the Pro Launch Red at standard trimming instructions, and this actually comes out lower and more penetrating, for sure. So really like the feel of that on that club. It's definitely made a huge difference for me in that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the 3-wood, and as I said, I've got the hybrid shaft, and I just don't know that I've played that. I can't remember like what club I built that in. Sorry, I took this a little bit differently, but again, kind of the same black and red silver color scheme. Looks really cool. The fairway wood is on the top here, and the hybrid is on the bottom. But for me, the 3-wood shaft, so that's got a little bit different design. And if you've heard any of the other reviews that I've done and talk about where I struggle. Where I struggle is getting the ball to spin up too much. I tend to get a little bit of, my hands tend to be a little bit behind. I tend to get a little bit of early extension, and I tend to deliver a little bit too much loft at impact. That's just a flaw that I have. Or it's a gift. Like I asked my pro about it. I said, should I really be trying to hit the ball lower? Because to me, I can always flight it down. But man, being able to hit it high can be a real gift sometimes. He said, consider it a gift. Just play with it. Just use it. Because like you said, you can always flight it down. So let's see. Let's look at the Pro Fairway wood here. So, regular stiff, tour stiff. One of the reasons why I bought it is it's a heavier weight. This is kind of why I made the comment on the 6S, is I would love to see an Avalon 6S in this weight range. I think would be a killer fairway wood, combination. So here's where this shaft I think can help is actually what Robin has done is kind of stiffen or soften up the tip section a little bit, not in torsional stiffness, but in getting a little bit of extra lean coming forward at impact, because a lot of people struggle to get fairway woods in the air. And so what he's really tried to do is soften up that tip section to help people launch the ball and get the ball in the air and get it to spin a little bit. And for me, that is not a good combination. I don't need that help. And, this just accentuates that for me. But if you're somebody who hits the ball very low with your fairway woods, fast swinger, slow swinger, this is definitely a golf shaft that you ought to consider. He has specifically designed this for fairway woods for people who struggle to get the ball airborne. And I would strongly consider that, if that's where I'm at. And because it definitely does that. And the first time I hit this, I bought this, and I kind of knew, that could be a problem for me. And the 3-wood that I had was a little spinny. I was spinning it more like, 4,000 to 42, 4,300, a lot. And man, I hit this on the range into the wind, and buddy, that ball just took off and went straight up in the air. And I'm like, this is not going to be a good fit for me. And I was a little irritated with myself because I knew that. But then, Brian actually told me he's gotten some guys who are a little stronger swingers to actually tip it a little bit more. And he said they're killing it. They give you a 5-inch parallel tip section here, which is a lot. So you can do a lot with this shaft. So, you know, if I didn't like the 6S so much, I might give that another shot in my G425 LST, honestly. But that's not coming out. I love that combo. But, you know, to me, this is a very unique shaft in that you've got that ability to that little softer tip section to get that ball elevated. So anyway, I think if you're looking for something like that, I don't think there's another shaft on the market that fits that kind of profile, that specifically was designed that way. So again, it wasn't a great fit for me, just with my faults. But man, you ought to, like I said, for the third time, I think, you know, if you struggle to get the ball airborne, this is a shaft you ought to look at. The hybrid. So, you know, I don't really remember hitting it that much. So let's go back to that one, just kind of looking at the spec sheet real quick. You know, I actually might go back and put this one in my FDI and take the i9 out. The only thing that gives me a little bit of hesitation here is it's about 10 grams lighter. So I don't know if I'm going to want that, but I do like the fact that it has a low balance point. So, you know, that is definitely something I tend to like, because I tend to like a heavier swing weight, and I tend to like low balance points in shafts. I tend not to like counterbalance and things of that nature. So that's definitely something that you could consider here. And again, you know, 5-inch parallel tip section, which allows you to really customize it, you know, however you want. You can pretty much get any ball flight you want out of that. So anyway, that's a little bit about the hybrid. I really wish I could give you more on it. I just don't really remember hitting it very often. And you know, it might be something I play around. I've got a Maltby 22 degree hybrid. I may throw it in that. I've got a Kurokage black that, you know, I've liked. I just kind of bought it as a pack, kind of on a whim, because I was struggling with a 4-iron, and I'm like, I need something I can swap out if I'm struggling with my long irons, you know, where I can still go and play and hit par 5s and 2, and, you know, get off the tee or go into long par 4s. So, you know, I kind of switch out. I've got 2 hybrids. I've got a Snake Eyes 18 degree and a Maltby 22 degree, and then I've got right now the FDI driving iron with the i9 shaft in it, and the 4-iron that I'm going to put a Modus 120 in. I've got the i9 in it right now. So I just switch them out depending on kind of the course conditions and how I'm playing, and, you know, what I think I'm going to face that day. So may have to put that in that Maltby. Gives me a thought. I forgot I even had the shaft. So anyway, hopefully this helps you guys with some firsthand experience. And hopefully I didn't bore you with a whole lot of extra detail, but, you know, I kind of feel like it's important for me to tell you this is kind of what I struggle with. This is kind of my playing ability, because often I see people review things and I'm like, I don't know how that applies to me, because I don't know how they play compared to how I play, or what they struggle with, or things of that nature. So I know this review is kind of a little bit long, and I may still even consider breaking it up into different videos just to keep the length down. Matter of fact, I may do that. You know, but I really, you know, hope that these reviews help, and that the amount of detail I give you about, you know, my own game kind of helps put it in perspective for you and how you play, because everyone's a little bit different. Okay, and don't hesitate to reach out to Robin or Brian. They do a really good job helping you kind of fit into the right shaft and right performance for you. So and definitely, you know, talk, if you have a club fitter, talk to them, you know, have them contact Brian and Robin. You know, those guys have been really, really great to work with, I can tell you that. So anyway, hope it helps, and see you guys on the course.